When injustice takes place in any form, as humans we have two instinctive reactions, fight or flight. Fight or flight decide in their subconscious. We think about the situation, the people involved, and the consequences of our actions. So why take action? And when? I put together an experiment in school. It may not be Princeton official, but it did bring me results. My accomplices were Miss Carlsa and Miss Spensieri. And my target were their students, males and females from grades 10 to 12.
In my class this morning, I used a word that I would never ever use. And I tried to slip it into my conversation as if it was just a word that I do use. I was reading newspaper on the weekend again, just in India. And so this time there was this slut on the bus. They responded to me in an interesting way. I sort of presented something that I had presented earlier, only I changed the words. So it was something I'd done before. And a couple of kids went, oh! They gasped when I said it, and because I thought, oh, that's interesting that they picked up on that.
So to briefly explain what I did yesterday in class, I basically used 3 different words that were defined by Manisha that were considered controversial, and I just used it in common speech just to try to get whatever reaction I could from the students and see how they felt about it.
I noticed my teacher using the term slut when she was reading a magazine or a newspaper article.
I don't know, it was kind of a major shock because usually Mrs. doesn't say stuff like that. So, but then yet again, I never took it much because I was working, and half the time I can't really listen and work.
A couple in the end said to me, when did you say that? So a couple didn't know.
When she said it, I didn't really say anything or think much of it because she was describing a newspaper article, but I don't think it's appropriate.
Some of them just laughed, some of them looked surprised or looked at each other. Nobody jumped up and said, what are you talking about? Which, I mean, I didn't really expect that anyways, but...
Not everybody gave a response that I could see.
It was more of a surprise kind of reaction.
I thought it was kind of weird because she doesn't usually use those terms.
I don't think it's...
Some of them said, oh, I would have said something, but I don't know in real life whether that's as easy to do as when I'm telling them the whole story. And if you heard it, and you're not sure, because a teacher that might say that might be a teacher that's not that approachable, and how do you approach that? I think it would be very difficult.
I don't think I said anything because everyone usually uses that term for any reason, so just kept quiet.
Most of them use a lot of these words commonly anyways. I don't think anything's too over the top, but at the same time, I guess being a teacher, I can kind of get away with saying things in a controversial way more than a student could.
I don't think it's okay to let people use it, but usually now in our times, people call their friends sluts and stuff.
For those who did take it serious, I think it's because they don't really necessarily expect it from a teacher, because usually a teacher has to be clean, don't say any bad words, no bad language, nothing.
When I see Miss Krause, I think of someone that could be my mom or my aunt or something, and then I see if someone's younger, I see them as an older cousin or something, and that's just, I wouldn't expect it from my mom, so I wouldn't expect it from her, but from a younger teacher, I think I wouldn't.
Maybe what I said was more in line with it, with how they would expect me to speak or how I usually speak, as opposed to the other teacher, the older one. Maybe he speaks a little more prim and proper, and then when he said that, it was just a little more outside of what the norm was and what they expected.
Of course, every student responds to various teachers in varying ways.
I think that if she was male, I would have changed that. It wouldn't be as less critical or whatever. Because guys are just, I don't know, I've just been around it and we're always swearing and stuff, so it never really bothers me, but when a girl swears, it's kind of different, you know?
After many conversations with many male teachers, I came to realize just how controversial my experiment actually is.
It's pretty funny how all the young male teachers didn't want to say any of the words of the vocabulary. And I thought it was probably a couple reasons. Maybe a younger teacher is more adverse to saying those words because they're not as comfortable to the point of an experienced teacher where they would say, hey, I can drop a few bombs and it wouldn't matter. As for, I think there's a discrepancy between males and female teachers, because I think all the female teachers said they would do it and all the males didn't. That's interesting. I can't explain that phenomenon, but that's something to think about for sure.
I decided that probably not a good idea. Number one, it's a math class and it's hard to bring it up to the class. I have to talk about some sort of story. And secondly, I didn't want to have to subject them to that, kind of like, didn't want to put the class through the motions of kind of like guinea pigs. And there's other issues outside of the class. To talk to some other teachers, they mentioned it's probably not a good idea. You have to talk to parents.
Because those words, especially words such as slut and whore, are inappropriate for the classroom, and they can be misinterpreted by a child going to their parents and pronounce those words.
I could do the experiment, I just needed approval from administration.
However, ironically enough, the significant difference between students' reactions towards their older teacher and their younger teacher were enough to show that students are actually more vocal and ready to fight back when their teacher is actually a lot older.
As a teacher, I think I'm setting an example. Like, there's a standard of what I do that people, I think it's very subconscious, just like kids didn't hear or did hear. And I'm really glad I got the chance to say something to them about it, because I really didn't like saying that word, and I just don't like that word, so I'm glad we had a chance. And I think even tomorrow I'm going to talk to them about it and say, what did you guys really think about that? Because I think if I don't say something, then it just goes on. People will think, oh, I guess it's okay because she said it. I think when you hear it from a real person, there's an impact there. I think you have a chance to impress on someone the rightness or the wrongness of a word or an action.